So now we're going to be working with adding using the lowest common denominator. And what I mean by that, I'm going to set up right now. In terms of the common denominators, that's how we traditionally add two fractions together. So here I've got a common denominator. The common denominator is the number on the bottom. If it's the same, then it is called a common denominator. And so we can then just put down 3, and we can add the two numbers on the top, which is just 1 and 1, so the answer is going to be 2/3. So if you have a common denominator, it's really quick to do adding and subtracting with common denominators. But it gets a little bit more complex if you don't have that common denominator. So if instead I have this problem here, 1/2 plus 1/4, I can't add these two together because this and this don't match. I've got to make them match before I add them together. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to work with something called the least common multiple of the two denominators. So the least common multiple, if you remember, we did this before. Least common multiple is when you go ahead and you multiply this number here by 2, then by 3, then by 4, and you just list them. So here it's going to be 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and so on. For this one here, it's going to be 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And the number that's the lowest common denominator, or in this case here, the least common multiple of these two numbers, let's keep with that language, so it's the least common multiple of these two numbers, is actually going to be the number that occurs first in both. So it's going to be 4s. And then I can rewrite my problem. So what I have to do is now I have to see how far down I went in these two columns to actually have to figure out what I have to multiply by. In this case here, this one I think is pretty straightforward. 1/4. If I have 1/4, I don't need to multiply anything by anything. I have 1/4. Don't change anything. But in this case here, I went down 2 levels. When I go down 2 levels, I like to think about it as times 2. And so whatever the numerator is, in this case here, the numerator is 1. I have to multiply that by whatever level I'm at. So it's going to be 1 times 2, which is just going to be 2. Then I have a common denominator, and I can add the two numerators together, and that's my answer. So let's try this again. If we have instead 3 ninths plus 2 fifths. Let's go ahead and do that one there. 3 ninths plus 2 fifths. Okay, if that's the case, I can figure out a common denominator by multiplying these two together. Just like I could back here, I can multiply these two together. But it's not going to be my lowest common denominator, or it may not be. It could be in this case. We'll see. So if I have 3 ninths and 2 fifths and I add them together, I'm going to do the same thing with the LCM of the two numbers, 9 and 5. So this is going to be 18, 27, 36, 45. I do that for a while in that column, then I go over to the next column. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And then I notice, hey, I got 45 in both those columns. Now I'm going to count down and see how many levels I went down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that means when I'm working with the thing that started with the 9, which in this case here is this one here, I'm going to change the denominator to my now common denominator, which is 45ths for both of them, because that I already figured out. But now I'm going to count down how far I went, which was I went down 5 levels. So whatever is in the numerator, I have to multiply by 5. So that's going to be 15. Same thing with this 2 fifths. I changed it to over 45s or 45ths, so I went down 9 levels. So I have to multiply the top number by 9 also. So that's going to be 18. So now I've set up another problem here, and if we start off with 2/8 plus 3/20, what I did over here was for 8 and 20, I set up the LCM and the least common multiple, and that's going to end up being our lowest common denominator here. And so what I did was I just 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, and then 20 and 40. So 40 is the one that occurs first in both of them. For the 20 to 40, it's going to be times 2. So I have to multiply this part here. I have to multiply 20 times 2 to get to 40, so I'm going to multiply 3 times 2 to get to 6, because those are now equivalent fractions. Now, for this one here, for the 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, that one there, I'm going to multiply it by 5, because I multiplied 5 on the bottom to get to 40, and now 5 times 2 is going to be 10. And then I have 16 over 40. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify that by going ahead, and 16 divided by 2 is 8, 40 divided by 2 is 20, 8 divided by 2 is 4, 10 divided by 2 is 10. Just keep doing this. 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And there we are. So again, this whole idea is just to, once again, if you have 2 sevenths plus 3 14ths, to see what the LCM is going to be, least common multiple. And the least common multiple in this case is going to be 14. And this is going to be times 1. This is going to be times 2. So over here, when I change it to 14ths, I've got to multiply both of these by 2. And so that's going to be 4 14ths plus, and then I'm already at 14ths for the other one. So it's going to be 7 14ths, which then simplifies because 7 goes into both those. It's going to be 1 over 2. So hopefully this makes sense, and if not, then we'll continue to work on it.